What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Robski. It is August 6th, 2019. This is that time of year again. I'm going to do a review of the NFL and how I think the divisions are going to play out. Again, the NFL provides us with a lot of storylines. We have Hard Knocks airing on tonight with the Oakland Raiders, which should be very interesting. I agree with Colin Cowherd and all the other people that this should be a very good Hard Knocks year. Fortunately, I don't get HBO, so I'm not going to be able to watch it. The NFL, like I said, is always very interesting this time of year because all the new moves and just all the new promises on what the season can be. So here we go. We're going to start with the AFC East. This is a pretty simple division. I have New England winning it again. I know people are tired of the Patriot reign, but the reign is not done. I don't necessarily say in Super Bowl, but I do have them winning to the division. There's no reason why they shouldn't be winning the division. They still are the best at scouting, still have the best head coach ever, and the best quarterback of all time. There's nobody in that division that can compete with them, and so I have New England winning. Now, this division with the other three teams are kind of tough. A lot of times, I'm basing a lot of my picks on front office and then who's at the premier positions like quarterback and head coach, and then the personnel around them. I am going to go out on a limb on this one. And this is a very bold prediction. I don't know how good this will be, but I'm going to go with Miami as my next runner-up. And the reason why is because I feel that they have a strong veteran presence in Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think Fitzpatrick has the ability to play well enough to get him to 8-8, somewhere like that. Okay. Number 3, we have the up-and-coming Jets. The Jets are not quite ready to pop in year 2. They have expanded their roster. They have some few good defensive pieces. Sam Darnold, he really didn't do much last year. He's kind of overshadowed by Baker Mayfield. I think Sam Darnold still will be good, but I don't think this is breakout year. He just doesn't have enough weapons on him or on the offense. Doesn't have the firepower. So I get the Jets number 3 slot. Number 4 is Buffalo. They have personnel issues. They have coaches issues. What I know about Josh Allen, he's doing some things I don't like. I don't like all the running. I don't like the inaccuracy. Josh Allen was a super athlete in college, has a beautiful arm. I've watched him throw, has all the physical tools. But when you get to this level, all that kind of goes out the window. You have to know how to play the position. Josh Allen's gotten a lot of Jake Locker comparison, except I think Jake Locker is actually better than Josh Allen. So I think Buffalo is going to be the cellar dweller this year. Okay. Moving on to the AFC Central. I think that this is going to, AFC North. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. My predictions aren't exactly, I'm not an expert or anything. This is kind of, some are on, personnel. Some of them are on statistics and then gut feeling. So AFC North. I'm going to go, and I'm going to, a lot of people have given Cleveland a lot of hype. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh as winning this division. And the reason why, again, it comes to the front office. According to Ben Roethlisberger, it's been a great offseason because they got Antonio Brown and the other guy, Le'Veon Bell, out of their hair. James Conner is a good back. He had a great season last year. Remember, they still got a great receiving core. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's no Antonio Brown, but he has plenty of firepower, and he's definitely good enough to be a number 1. He's very physical. I like the way that Juju Smith-Schuster plays a lot. So Pittsburgh's got plenty of pieces. Their defense is strong. They got a great organization. I gave them number 1. Number 2, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. A lot of people have them winning the Super Bowl, or not winning the Super Bowl, but a run. I don't think so. They got a new head coach, and granted, they took a big step in the right direction last year. But again, the teams that they did beat were not, playoff contenders. And, at the end of the day, they did not make the playoffs. Okay. I like Baker Mayfield. I think he's got a lot of potential. But again, they have new head coach, and I'm picking them number 2 just because I think that they have the best roster in the AFC North. But again, I just don't think they're going to take that step. Odell Beckham Jr. is a great player who can be a little too dramatic and cause some problems similar to Antonio Brown. And those new pieces, they need to see how they're going to play together. Like I said, Cleveland has a loaded roster, but I don't think that based on the new head coach and then depending on, what's Baker going to do, I think they have 2 lights out receivers. They got a good tight end. They got good defense. They're going to be tough, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Pittsburgh. Number 3 is going to be Cincinnati. And the reason why I say this is because I think that Andy Dalton's been solid for years. They're kind of a bland team. They don't have a lot of excitement, but I think they're pretty solid, and I think they're just going to be number 3. And then number 4, I have Baltimore. And that might surprise a lot of people. It doesn't surprise me. Remember, they don't have Terrell Suggs anymore. He was a leader on the defense. And frankly, Lamar Jackson is not a good quarterback. And I feel that the Ravens got exposed in that playoff game. Lamar Jackson reminds me a lot of Robert Griffin III, who they have as a backup, by the way. But Lamar is so limited, and Robert Griffin III is so limited. I think that's going to be a dumpster fire because I just don't see. I mean, their offense to me it's just stagnant. It's like I don't know who they got going, what they got going on it. They sell some nice defensive pieces, but again, I think Baltimore is going to have a bad season. They're going to take a big step back. That's been a very successful franchise. But to me, there's no way Baltimore's doing very well. So I have them as a cellar dwellers. AFC South. AFC South is a very challenging one to predict. I'm going to go with number 1, the Colts. The Colts showed what they were last year with the healthy Andrew Luck. Even though Luck's had some problems in training camp, that team really is dependent on Andrew Luck. It all goes through Luck with that team. I mean, Darius Leonard's a fabulous player. They have some other pieces, but that team is very heavily dependent on Andrew Luck. If they don't have Luck in the lineup, they're going to finish in one of the last places. If they do, I predict them winning the division. Andrew's been out a couple days in the camp, but again, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to have a big year. Andrew Luck's going to establish himself as one of the top quarterbacks. Number 2 in that division, it's kind of a toss-up. I'm going to go with the Texans based on personnel and head coach. I'm really – Colin Cowherd's a huge Deshaun Watson fan. I'm not. I think he gets a little too cocky and arrogant. He does a little bit of these gestures. He plays well, but again, you don't know how good you really are until you go up against the best. I think Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback with a lot of tools, but again, I'm just not overly impressed with him. I think that the coach show is really good. And then obviously they have studs on defense. They got J.J. Watt still. They have Clowney. They have a lot of players that are very, very good. Number 3, this team could have been easily the number 2. Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel is an awesome football guy. He was a great player, and he's turning into a really good coach. I think Mariota. I think Mariota's a little underrated. I like Mariota. I think he does a solid job. I think he's a great leader. They have a really stud running back in that Henry guy. So that one was kind of a tough one for me. I'm just going to go with the Texans just based on I think the Texans have a better roster. And then the cellar dweller I have is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got brand new quarterback Nick Foles. Nick Foles is awesome. I love him. I've talked about him, and he seems like an awesome person. But this isn't Philadelphia. Nick Foles is going to, I just don't think he works in Jacksonville. I get Jacksonville last place of the division. Okay, which brings me to another very, very interesting division is the AFC West. Now, this division, I'm going to make a bold prediction that might shock a lot of people, but I'm going to stand by it just based on kind of gut instinct and feel, okay? So, Kansas City has, coming off the season with one of the best seasons ever by any year quarterback. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, let's just be honest, he's an absolute star. He reminds me so much of Brett Favre. It just his style and his athleticism. Just a really exciting quarterback, okay? I love Patrick Mahomes. Super athlete, can rotate, has one of the best arms in the NFL. Just knocked it out of the park. I don't know why so many other teams missed on this guy. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is incredible. But with that being said, Kansas City has had some off-the-field problems with going back to Kareem Hunt to now Tyreek Hill. They had let some key defensive guys go. I think that San Diego has a better personnel than Kansas City. So now this is a little bold prediction because Melvin Gordon is still sitting out, and that could easily hurt him. But I think San Diego's defense is a lot better than Kansas City's. I'm going to pick San Diego to win the division. Sorry, San Diego. I just can't believe the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm terribly sorry I messed that up. I predict the Los Angeles Chargers will win the division based on the veteran presence of Phillip Rivers, who I cannot stand, but he is a good quarterback. And then they got so many good players on defense. They got Bosa. They got Derwin James. They got a whole bunch of other studs that played well. Their head coach, I think, is underrated. So I'm going to go with the Chargers winning the division. Now, number 2, I'm going to go with Kansas City, but not by a long shot. Okay, Kansas City the reason why I'm picking Kansas City number 2 is Mahomes and Andy Reid. That's the reason why I'm picking them number 2. I love Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce probably is the best tight end in the NFL right now since Gronk's gone. Very physical presence, just a great player. Tyreek Hill's a great player, but it sounds like he's gotten in some trouble, and that plays a factor. So, number 3, I got Denver Broncos. Now, this one was a little tougher because I think the Broncos are either going to hit or miss on this Flacco deal. The reason why Denver Broncos are the interesting team to me is, one, I love their running back, Phillip Lindsay. And the Broncos have a very winning culture. They're good. The Broncos are a very well-ran organization. The presence of John Elway helps a lot. And, worked with Peyton Manning. Now, I'm not trying to compare Flacco to Peyton Manning, but I really like the signing of Joe Flacco. I don't know what they see in Drew Lock. I don't know what kind of ceiling he has, but it's going to be about Flacco. And Flacco could be on one of these revenge terror deals where, the Baltimore Ravens basically let him go. He might get out there and be like, I'm going to show you, and play really well. I wanted to put the Broncos at the sleeper team at number 2, but I just think Mahomes and Andy Reid are too talented together. So I think the Broncos are kind of an interesting team to watch. Watch the progression of Drew Lock, see how good he really is, because he really wasn't talked about, and he might. I've seen him play in college. I saw him play in college. He might have it. I don't know. But if John Elway thinks he sees something, I mean, John Elway's John Elway. I mean, come on. And then, last but not least, I have the Raiders, and the Raiders, they don't have the personnel on defense. Antonio Brown isn't going to help out that much. In fact, if you paid attention, he's already been screwing up by doing bonehead mistakes. I don't see it. I think Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but there's just not enough personnel around him. People aren't getting along with Gruden. I still think Gruden's the next head coach. I just don't see unless they got people out of the draft that I don't know about. I don't see Raider Nation doing very well. So I got them in the cellar dwellers. So that's the landscape of the AFC. And again, I think the two most interesting divisions of the AFC are the South, and then every division in the AFC is interesting except for the East, in my opinion. Again, I think the East is still one of the weakest divisions, regardless of the Patriots, obviously. But all those other divisions, I think the teams that are really interesting in the Central are obviously Cleveland, but I think Pittsburgh is actually very interesting this year because they've been kind of low key, and so I'm more interested in Pittsburgh than Cleveland. And then in the South, I think it's between Houston and the Titans, Tennessee Titans. I'm just kind of curious to them. I'm really kind of curious to see what the Tennessee Titans are going to look like because they had success last year and the year before that. And then finally, in the West, I'm really interested in the Chargers and the Broncos. I know the Chiefs, regardless if they finish number 1 or number 2, the Chiefs are going to the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes is going to be stud still. But the Chargers and the Broncos are really pretty interesting teams going into the 2019-2020 season. Okay, now we're going to go down to, this is going to be similar to the AFC East. It's going to be the NFC East, okay? I predict a down year for the NFC East, okay? One shot, and this is a very fair shot at Dallas. Dallas cannot keep things under wraps. They have something going on every year. Like last year, they had that release of a player who, didn't even get convicted. Dallas is just too dysfunctional, and they had a great year. A lot of people think they're going to do well this year. I think they're taking a step back, and here's why. I think the Eagles will win that division. The Eagles like the Indianapolis Colts. The Eagles are very dependent on Carson Wentz this year. This is Wentz's biggest year, and the reason why is because they don't have Nick Foles backing them up. So Wentz needs to prove that they made the right choice. Because I was even thinking, what could they have gotten with Wentz? I mean, what if they decided to stick with Foles and say, hey, what can we get out of Wentz? I like Carson Wentz. He's a fabulous player. You got to stay healthy. You got to play. Okay, quit running around. Okay, you can beat people with your arm. The Eagles have most talent. They have the best front office. They're going to be buttoned up. They're winning the division this year, I predict. Number 2 is Dallas. The only reason why I'm putting them number 2 is because the East is that bad this year. Some of these other divisions, I'd put them lower. I think that without Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott is not – and I love Dak Prescott too, but if you just look at the numbers, if they don't sign Ezekiel Elliott or get something done, Dallas is not going to go – they're not going to have a year like they had last year. I don't care they have a great defense. Their offense is actually very stagnant without Zeke. With Zeke, Amari Cooper becomes a better player. Dak Prescott becomes a far better player. They're getting Witten back, which you'll probably just need him for stability. I don't know what he's going to look like. But Dallas, to me, is number 2 only because of the last 2 teams that are bad. The last 2 teams are kind of a toss-up in this division. I'm going to put New York at number 3. And the reason why I'm putting New York at number 3 is because they're a better franchise than the Washington Redskins. But New York is going to have a lot of drama this year because it's going to be the year when they're going to replace Eli Manning with his successor. To me, this is Eli's last year in New York. It might be his last year in the NFL because what's going to happen is New York's not going to win, and they're going to be like, okay, it's time to roll with this other guy, and they're going to do that, okay? Saquon Barkley is one of the best running back, top 5 in this league. He's the best player on their team right now at this point in time. But they don't have anybody to throw to, and they don't have anyone on defense. The only reason why I'm putting New York over the Redskins is just based on pass. But the Redskins actually have a better personnel, in my opinion. So which brings me to the Washington Redskins. And this is why I think they're going to end up in last place, okay? They just drafted the second coming of Jameis Winston. His name is, what's his first name? Something Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, that's who it is, okay? The Giants passed on this guy for a reason. And Dwayne Haskins goes in there, and he's going to be like, you guys are going to be sorry, okay? Look, he's at a bad, dysfunctional franchise. Alex Smith is gone. If they start with Haskins, it's going to be a disaster. Case Keenum, I don't think works there. I don't see the Redskins. The Redskins are going to finish last place. That's why I predict. I don't see them doing very well this year. Plus all the other crap with their name and stuff. It's just stupid. Just Redskins don't do things right. Haskins isn't going to work. Like I said, congratulations on drafting the second coming of Jameis Winston. Speaking of Jameis Winston, I'm going to move to the South, and the South is kind of interesting this year. Number one, I'm going to do New Orleans, even though they need to get over that what happened to them last year. They're still not over it, but they still have the best personnel in that division. They lost Mark Ingram. They still have Alvin Kamara. They still got Drew Brees. They still got Michael Thomas. They still got all those guys on D. They lost their center. He's retired, Max Unger, but I still think they have the best roster in this division. They still got Sean Payton, Drew Brees, all those weapons. Saints are winning this division this year. Number 2, I have Atlanta. The reason why is Dan Quinn needs to have a big year. I think he's going to improve. They still got Matt Ryan, who's up and down, streaky. I know they had a bad year last year. Julio's looking good. They got good D. Atlanta Falcons, number 2 this year. They could be the number 1 team in that division, in my opinion. It's just really just depends on how well they play. And which brings me to the interesting one. I don't know who to put in the 3rd or 4th slot, kind of like in the East, because both these 2 teams are bad. I'm going to go with Carolina in the 3rd spot simply because Tampa Bay has a new coach. And Cam Newton is a better quarterback than Jameis Winston. Okay? Jameis Winston, well, we'll get to that later. But anyways, Cam Newton's been having arm problems. Cam Newton's older. Cam Newton's banged up, but he still can play a decent quarterback. He's just no superstar anymore. The superstar has been Christian McCaffrey, who's been a huge addition. And he's another guy, dual threat guy. But they have very average wide receivers. They still got a good defense. But again, Cam still has some superstar to him. But what's going to happen is, just like in typical Cam Newton fashion, they'll beat up on the team, the cream puff teams. When they get someone good, they'll get beat. And Cam, in my opinion, has not been a good leader. He's a good leader when things are going good, but he's a bad leader and looks like a total mental wuss when he gets beat up on. So I think that they're going to finish 3rd place simply because Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think Buccaneers actually have better personnel on an offense. They got they got 2 great wide receivers. They got a great tight end. So the Tampa Bay Bucs have got some players. I love Cameron Brate. I think he's very underrated. Mike Evans is one of the best receivers in the game. The other guy who plays next to him is really good too. Jameis Winston's an idiot and a moron. And Bruce Arians, great coach, but he's going to be a brand new coach. And good luck working with Jameis. This is Jameis, along with Carson Wentz, this is Jameis Winston's big year. because he might be Josh Freeman number 2. Started out, showed some flashes, and then just, it turned ugly for Freeman. It really didn't turn out well for Freeman, and most likely it's not going to turn out well for Jameis, in my opinion. But again, what do I know? I'm just some guy from Idaho. Okay, the NFC North. This is another interesting division because there's 3 key players here. Now, I know Matt Patricia, I still think he's a good coach. Detroit, just bad culture. I don't think Detroit's doing anything this year, so I'm going to pick them to be cellar dweller in that division. The number one, I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. The number 1 team that I got in this division is Minnesota. Okay, now they had a down year last year, and Kirk Cousins is overrated, obviously. But Kirk Cousins is still a productive quarterback, okay? Minnesota's got the best roster in this division in my book. They have by far the best receiving core and tight end with Thielen, Stephon Diggs, and then, of course, Kyle Rudolph, okay? They still got studs on D. I seen what these guys could be a couple years ago. This was a tough team, and Seattle just barely squeaked by them. They got most of their personnel. It just really depends. Kirk Cousins needs to really step up because his offense is loaded. Okay, those players are great players, Diggs and Thielen, and then of course Rudolph. Okay, it's Kirk Cousins that's the weak link. Now again, I think that Kirk Cousins is still a decent quarterback, but he wasn't worth the money that they paid him. And if they would have stuck with Keenum, they still could have been rolling. Keenum had chemistry with those guys. Kirk Cousins just didn't do it. With that being said, I think they're going to figure it out. I think Minnesota's winning the division. That might be a large step, okay? This might be another surprise, but I think I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say Green Bay finishes number 2. And here's why. This is going to be another, I'm going to show the world revenge year for Rodgers. Watch out. When Aaron Rodgers gets determined and pissed, he turns into a different animal. Okay? That run they had at the Super Bowl, there's no way that Aaron Rodgers is as good as people make him out to be. He's a Hall of Famer, yes. Is he one of the best? Is he a top 10 quarterbacks of all time? Probably. But he's not. He's no Tom Brady. Okay? No way. No way, no how. He's not even Joe Montana. He's not Peyton Manning. Okay, I think Drew Brees is better than him. But Aaron Rodgers is still a top quarterback in this league. In today's game, I'm going to give him – to me, honestly, it's him and Mahomes. Mahomes have way better stats. But I still think I'd take Drew Brees over both those guys. Okay? I've been saying that Drew Brees is better than Rodgers for years. But anyways, Rodgers still a superstar. He's still got a lot of potential. I'm going to put them number 2. And then I'm going to take Chicago, making a step back, number 3. Now, here's why. Chicago still has a very good roster on defense, okay? This is a defensive franchise. For some reason, Bears, they're always defense. That's how they've always been. They've never had quarterbacks. They've had defense. They've won on defense, okay? They won the division last year. They're going to take a step back. The reason why is reports Mitchell Trubisky hasn't looked good. Mitchell Trubisky is another one of those quarterbacks who, in my opinion, is very limited. They got a good head coach, offensive-minded head coach, but the weak link in that franchise is the quarterback. It always has been. It's funny. It always has been. Bears' stars have always been on defense. Khalil Mack is one of the best players in the game. They got Hicks, that defensive tackle. I forget his name. He's really good. They got Trevathan. They got a lot of linebackers that are good to play. But I think that Mitch Trubisky is so limited that he's going to be the weak link of that franchise and put him in the 3rd slot. And then the 4th slot is Lions. We got good old Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford just doesn't beat enough good teams. To be fair, he's in one of the toughest divisions. And he doesn't have enough firepower around him. I don't know who he's throwing the ball to. I don't know who they got on D. Lions finished last again. I don't see Stafford. I hate to say this about Stafford because I love the guy. I think he's a good quarterback. I think that he gets too much heat and criticism. That guy has kept that franchise alive for years. He's been the only guy that's been consistent, and I still think he's worth the money that he was paid, maybe a little less. But I don't see any other quarterback that could step into that franchise and save the franchise. It's not Matt Stafford's fault. It's the organization's fault. So the Lions finished last place. I don't think it's going to be a good year for the Lions, okay? Which brings me to the West, and it's hard for me not to be biased. I don't know where Seattle fits here. But number one, the clear favorite still is the Rams, okay? The Rams are not going to have a Super Bowl hangover. They got a great young quarterback in Jared Goff, who's underrated in my opinion. Jared Goff has the right personality, right tools, right body. He's a great quarterback. I'm glad they stuck with him, even though he had a quote-unquote down year his rookie season, but I don't think that was attributed to him. Rams still got stud wide receivers. They still got the best defensive player in the game in Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald could possibly be the number one overall player at his position, like if you compare everybody else. They got a great offensive line. Cooper Kupp should be back. They got that defense there. Rams are going to – and as long as Todd Gurley can stay healthy, regardless if Todd Gurley doesn't stay healthy or not, the Rams are going to win in that division. They just got too much swag. I don't know how far they'll go in the playoffs, but Rams are number one. The number two slot is very hard because I've been waiting for my 49ers to pop, and they just haven't done it. But a lot of sources in the camp saying that they're doing well. Jimmy Garoppolo needs to stay healthy. Their defense has been upgraded. They got probably if not the second best tight end in the game right now, George Kittle. He's a very underrated player. He's right up there with Travis Kelce. George Kittle just had to work with, a very much quarterback play. So I'm going to say this is the year that the Niners are kind of a sleeper team, and I say they make a run for playoffs. I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs, but I'll say they make a run. Seattle's going to finish number 3, because the reason why I'm putting Seattle number 3 is because I don't know what Arizona's going to look like. But I have Seattle finishing 3rd. Now, Seattle could easily finish. They do this all the time. They end up getting past my Niners. It's been very depressing, but I'm just going to put Seattle 3. You still got Russell Wilson there. But you got a lot of new faces. Doug Baldwin's out. So we'll see. And then the last spot, new coach, new quarterback. They made a bold move getting rid of Josh Rosen. Kyler Murray says he looks good, but the guy is tiny. And if you think he's going to be Russell Wilson, think again. Okay, Russell Wilson had a good D and played in I don't think that you can make that comparison. Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, it's not fair. Russell Wilson had a lot of pieces around him when he had success in Seattle, and he played in the best home field advantage at CenturyLink Field, okay? Kyler Murray doesn't have any of that. And he still has Larry Fitzgerald for guidance. But again, I don't see Arizona finishing more than dead last. So there you have it. That's my review of the season. Might do a midway review. We'll see how it turns out. Thanks. Have a great day.